Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. One of these topics that will probably upset some people. Some of you probably will agree with me, as it usually happens, but this needs to be talked about more because you won't see this in any of the, not only mainstream media, even some of the base media that you have out there floating around that you guys like, that I like as well. They won't touch this with a 10-foot pole because it is politically incorrect. Even though the information is out there, this is 2 + 2 = 4. This is basic. It is the information that's available everywhere, but people just don't connect the dots because it's not convenient to do so. I don't give a damn though, and I'll be connecting the dots because even though I don't give a damn about being politically correct, I do give a damn about the consequences of this sort of thing. This is hurting children. And I'm not like, let's do it for the children like a Million Mom March. I'm talking about serious kids getting tortured and mutilated and slaughtered and killed. And this could be avoided. But it's not politically correct to do so. So we let these little children in the hands of people that should not have them simply because it is a politically correct thing to do. We all know what's going on with Disney and all the crap. Yeah, fantastic. Do you know the actual numbers? Do you know why you don't want to mess with these things? Why you don't want to have kids involved with things that they shouldn't be involved in? Look, I'm going to go right to it and start with this story. This is going to be the perfect segue into the deep end of this whole mess that's been going on for years, and people just willfully ignore it. People ignore it because they don't know any better, and people that are in the medical community and do know better, they pretend they don't. They just, whatever, I'll just look the other way, pretend this is not a real thing, and let little kids suffer, have their lives destroyed, their little bodies mutilated, or being beaten to death. I don't care. That's the stance that thousands of professionals that know better actually take. So, the news starts with this, simple enough. Couple who asked for female embryo sues fertility clinic over baby boy. So we have here Heather Willem Rottenberg said she would only have kids with her wife Robin. This is Robbie there, Rottenberg Wilmer, if they could have girls, because Heather was still traumatized. And yes, even before I even read this, just by the title, there's severe trauma and mental disorder involved in all of this, as it's usually the case. But here it's just said right away, because of her was still traumatized but from being sexually assaulted on 2 different occasions after college. Right, so these 2 women that pretend to be a couple, like a man and a woman, like husband and wife, they decide that they want to have a kid, but not just any kid. It has to be a girl because boys are bad. It's something that this woman cannot comprehend, that a baby boy is not some kind of monster. And this has been in several media outlets. We see, we're going to be getting into this in a second, but I want to go first with this story. So a couple who asked for female embryo sues fertility clinic over baby boy, right? And this is from the Daily Wire. This is a quote from the couple. Just like rape, lesbian couple sues fertility clinic for alleged embryo mix-up, says they wanted a girl but got a boy. So long story short, these 2 lesbians decided they want to have a baby, but only if it's a girl, because a boy they simply cannot tolerate. They cannot tolerate having a boy, so they go to this fertility clinic. They are assured, yes, of course, you want a baby girl? We're going to be giving you a baby girl. We'll take the man of the, whatever you call these, with the dude of the couple and his, her, zer, or whatever it is you call this genetic material. We mix it with a male donor. Guys, donating sperm is the kind of thing that allows this to happen. Be responsible about your own body, the choices you make. It may seem like something simple, but if we put an end to this sort of thing, this would not end up happening. So these 2 want a girl, and as nature usually does, it makes its own decisions. So one of these was not a baby girl embryo, it was a boy. And all of a sudden, this angry lesbian is pregnant with a baby boy. Now, she assumes it could not possibly be her own because she had paid for a baby girl, so that's what she was gonna be getting. They don't understand that nature does not care about their politics. Nature takes its own way. So even if you try to kill the little baby boys, sometimes one of those little dudes actually makes it. And that's what ends up happening here. They were sure that they had the baby of someone else in her body. And she goes on ranting about this was just like being raped. We were having a girl. It's important for me to have a girl. That's not what it says. And she goes on and on. How this is just, this is the most terrible thing that could ever happen to you, having a healthy baby boy inside your body. We scheduled an ultrasonic sound to the next day. That was the worst night of my life. I had the overwhelming sense of immobility. I remember lying on the bedroom thinking, this can't be happening. Not only was the baby in my body not ours, but the baby in my body was male, and he was put there against my will, just like rape. This lunatic thinks that having a baby by her own will, she went to a damn fertility clinic to get that baby put in her, but just because it's a boy, it is her being raped yet again. It is insanity. This is the kind of thing that crazy people say, right? This is the kind of thing that crazy people say, and she's having a child. She should not have this. She should not be allowed to care for any baby of any kind. Yet this is normal. This is complete, and this is woke. This is like progressive. This is, advancing society and humanity in some way. This lunatic thinks that just because that poor little guy is a boy, she's being raped by him in some twisted, sick manner. So this just gets worse and worse because after they go into, they check with a fertility clinic, turns out that no, there wasn't a mix-up of some other baby. They were hoping, these two crazy people were hoping that there was some little girl somewhere that was put in some other woman's body, and they would trade. They would get their girl. But no, in fact, this was theirs. This was a baby boy made out of the genetic material of this thing right there and some a male donor, right? And was implanted into the female of the couple, right? Now, you'd think that they would accept that they're having, no, that was not it. After you found out I was carrying a boy, the internal investigation determined whose embryo it was, took several weeks. I was convinced the whole time it wasn't ours because the clinic knew not to transfer a male. It wasn't a preference, it was a need. No, you were playing with nature, and nature sometimes does its own thing. During that time, I had no connection to the baby inside. I figured I would be giving it away to its real parents. You are the one carrying the child. What on earth do you think you are? I try not to think about being pregnant. 7 weeks later, we got an email that it was our embryo. It was indeed male, and it was indeed related to Robbie. No one else had our baby. No, because that is your baby. There was no female baby coming. It brought up the loss of our first baby like she died again. They are insane. These are crazy people that are left in caring for a baby. I was so furious. I felt like a deep betrayal. How the F do you mess up that bad? How the F do you mess up that bad? You're playing with nature, mixing up semen and genetic material in ways you could not possibly understand, literally playing God with things you don't understand, and you're surprised that something didn't go perfectly as you expected. They messed up something so integral. The fact there is no legal requirements about these procedures should strike fear in the heart of all parents using fertility services. You know what? If you don't want to take the slight risk of not everything going exactly like you want, but again, mentally ill people, when are we going to be finally accepted? And we'll get to this in a second. People with a mental disorder that is very severe. Meanwhile, our family and friends were all so happy. Nobody understood the complexity of my feelings. That was the most isolating thing, that we had a healthy baby, but I had no emotional connection, and now I had to wrap my head around having a child forever that I wasn't planning on. The whole pregnancy, I couldn't connect it with the baby. I hate saying it. It's painful, terrible. About 20 weeks pregnant, I started bleeding and I was rushed to an emergency room. I had placenta eruption. I was put on modified bed rest. And there it goes on. Our son was born December 2020 and placed in ICU. We went to see him every single day for 19 days. You didn't stay with your child, you monster. At home, I was trying to breastfeed him, but it was really hard. Of course it was. Who could possibly expect you to breastfeed the baby you brought to this world? That is insane, right? I had wanted skin-to-skin connection, but ended up wearing things so he wouldn't touch my chest. Do you see what this lunatic is doing with this child? I had wanted skin-to-skin connection, but I ended up wearing things so he wouldn't touch my chest. When he did, it sent electric shock waves through me. I started experiencing extreme anxiety. I would look at the baby and it would contort into the faces of all the grown men that I known. It was so creepy. Whenever that happened, I had to give the baby to Robbie. I literally thought I was going insane. No, you're not going. You are already insane, lady. There were several incidents of suicide ideation, some of which were very dangerous. I had complex post-traumatic depression. And this goes on and on and on. These two women that are now caring for this child should not be in this position to begin with. These are two very sick, mentally unstable women that should not be caring for a baby. And I've done videos before about how it's often the case. They end up torturing the child. They end up beating the child. They end up slaughtering the child. I did the video about this lesbian couple in Argentina. The bull of the couple ended up beating the little 5-year-old, like a little child, to death. And the woman of the couple concealing and trying to hide all of this. This is not an uncommon story. This happens very often. There was another one that I had done that video, and finally I decided not to even upload it because it was so sad. Again, two lesbians in Brazil. They had a baby boy, which they hated. So you know what they ended up doing? They ended up cutting him up, trying to convert him, to change his gender into a female. They mutilated his genitals and tried to make him into, because the mainstream media, the medical community tells you can transfer, you can become a girl just by mutilating a child. You make him into a little girl just if you cut off his genitals. If you cut off his penis, he's now a girl. That is the insanity. You're being told it's acceptable, normal, or even possible. And people end up doing this sort of thing. Now, you may be thinking, Fernando, what are you even talking about? These are very rare cases. No, they're not. No, they are not. You know why not? Because even if I go look at, BBC, how more politically correct and woke can you get than the BBC? Is violence more common in same-sex relationships? Actually, yes. It is. Now, I read this article when it first came out, and they actually had the numbers for it. It's like double. It's considerably more. Now, if you go check it out, they removed that actual figure because it was definitely not politically correct. But the figure is there. If you look around, you will find it. Now, what's very interesting is that being the woke BBC, they are blaming this on, homophobes, on society not being woke enough. They're not focusing on the actual number and the actual difference of how more violent these same-sex couples are. They're just looking to blame the rest of society that is not sick with mental disorders, that hasn't got this same gender dysphoria problem. Those are the ones to blame, not the people. And look, these are people with serious mental disorders. They are sick. It's not like you're going to be blaming people for being sick, but you first have to accept that they have a disease. You first have to accept that they have a mental disorder. That's why they end up having these problems. But no, we have to pretend that's not the case. This is all perfectly normal. Now, if you go and look into what Wikipedia says, again, how more woke can you get than Wikipedia? Domestic violence and same-sex relationships. If we scroll down over here, we will find some interesting information that's straight out of the CDC. Again, this is the CDC. In 2010, a CDC study reported domestic violence in U.S. is 26% for gay men, 37% for bisexual men say they have experienced physical violence. There's no such thing as bisexual. You're either homosexual or you're not. So let's throw all that in the same. Between 26 and 37%. Yes, these are statistics. They're not entirely accurate, but when they are big enough in number, there's a clear indicator right there. So between 26 and 37% of gay men, physical violence, stalking, or rape by their own partners, of which 90 and 78% were male, right? So gay men have about this number. Now, when it comes to lesbian women, gay women, the CDC also stated that 43.8% of lesbian women reporting experiencing physical violence, stalking, or rape by their partners. That's nearly half of these women living together. That, it's a it's insanity. This is crazy to think that this is just like any other normal marriage and any other normal couple that has, your typical rape, stalking, and physical violence. That's pretty much a staple in half the couples. No, of course it's not. Because when you look at yet another piece of research, overall, you may be asking, okay, what's the average? The overall average is about 22% individuals assaulted by partners at least once in their lifetime. All right, and this is throwing all figures. Good luck finding the number of how much inter-partner violence there is for heterosexual numbers. It's gonna be half of what you have from these people. These people with these very serious mental disorders, they end up having depression, violence, suicide attempts. They're violent among themselves. They're violent with their own children. This is why the insanity of pretending, oh, this is just a normal couple. What? You're a homophobe. You're a lesbian phobe. You're a bisexual phobe. No, I'm no phobe, nothing. I'm just looking at the numbers, looking at the reality, looking at what you see with your plain eyes. This is out there for all of us to see. Haven't you ever noticed this yourself? So many times, it is disproportional, the amount of couples of the same sex that end up hurting their children, especially when it is two gay women that somehow end up with a little boy. They go after that little poor kid like you wouldn't believe. The numbers are overwhelming. These two women, they will ruin this kid's life, if not just torture him or even end up murdering him like it happens so often. It hasn't got to be a physical torture or mutilation, just mentally. They're already talking about how this is wrong because there's a part here where they go on about how being a boy, it's normal for them to hit you because he's a boy. Insanity, complete insanity. The kind of thing that only deranged, crazy people could possibly think, right? Look at what they say here. We didn't want to have a boy because of the assaults and because of the socialization of boys. There's constant socialization of what it means to be a real man. People say, oh, he's a boy, let him hit you. And all of the camouflage and guns don't help. It's reinforced masculinity, and that's a reminder of the assaults every time. These two women are crazy. They are insane. They need medical help. They need professional help. They should not be in charge of a child, of a little baby boy that has no way of defending himself. Yet this is presented as perfectly normal. Just a fertility clinic mix-up, and we're suing. We are mad. We're living in clown world. This has become normal. Are we messed up in the head? All of us? This is why we're living the way we are. This is why people have this disconnection with reality in all areas. Because we cannot do 2 + 2 = 4. This is just too much for us. We have to pretend that we're living in clown world and the clown world is normal. It's not, folks. This is not normal. This is not healthy. This is actually the opposite of all that. But, guys, let me know what you guys think there in the comments. See you in our next video. Take care.